every molecule, every action, every decision leading to this singular second in time. We live our lives assuming control, believing in free will, trusting in the comforting chaos of chance. We call them coincidences, those momentary ripples where fate seems to smile, or perhaps mock us. But what if the casual word coincidence masks something far deeper? What if there is no chance at all? What if our entire life, from the first breath to the final moment, is merely a script? And what if that script was finished long ago? Today, we delve into the dark archives of historical synchronicity. We are hunting for the author of destiny. We are looking for evidence of a cosmic architect who writes our every move. The following are the 10 most mysterious coincidences in history. Prepare to question everything you think you know about how life works. Our countdown begins with a story that proves nothing is ever truly lost. The woman and the film reel. In 1914, a German woman took 6 photographs of her son. She entrusted the film reel to a friend in Strasbourg for development. Because of the World War, she lost contact and failed to locate the photographs. 2 years later, in 1916, she purchased a new roll of film near Frankfurt and photographed her newborn daughter. Upon developing the pictures, she discovered a stunning anomaly, a double exposure. The reel she had just purchased was, impossibly, the very same reel she had lost in Strasbourg years before. A needle in a haystack, or a preset coordinate in a programmed world. Mark Twain. Mark Twain, the great American writer, orator, and humorist, was born in 1835, the year the Halley's Comet was visible. In 1909, Twain himself made a chilling prediction about his final exit, stating, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It comes again the next year, and I hope to go out with it." Biographers confirmed the startling synchronicity 1 year later. On April 21, 1910, Twain died of natural causes at the precise instant that the Halley's Comet was perfectly visible in the sky. He arrived with the comet. He left with the comet. But were those the wishes of a man, or the closing of a chapter in a grand novel? The lives of Heath Ledger and Brandon Lee. Heath Ledger and Brandon Lee were young, famous actors with a great resemblance. Both were 28 years old at the moment of their death. The parents of both Ledger and Lee divorced when they were young, and both of their mothers were teachers. Their fathers held similar, mirrored passions. Ledger's father was a race car driver and sportsman passionate about cinema, while Lee's father, Bruce Lee, was a film actor and sportsman passionate about cars. The manner of their deaths is strikingly parallel, but reversed. Ledger was passionate about firearms when he was young, yet he died of a drug overdose. Lee was passionate about drugs when he was young, yet he died from a gunshot wound involving a firearm. Furthermore, both actors famously interpreted a curious character who wore white face makeup, blackened eyes, and a painted smile. Lee's character was the hero. Ledger's was the villain. 2 men, 2 lives, 2 identical ends, separated by years, linked by impossible symmetry. Green Bay Hill. The 1999 film Magnolia features a protagonist narrating a curious set of historical facts. He relays a news item from the New York Herald on November 26, 1911, detailing the hanging of 3 men. They were executed for the murder of Sir Edmund William Godrey, who resided in Green Bay Hill, London. The motive for the murder, committed by 3 vagrants, was simple robbery. The 3 vagrants were identified as Joseph Green, Stanley Berry, and Daniel Gill. Look closer at those names and that location. Green, Berry, Gill, Green Bay Hill. Is this merely coincidence, or the subtle hand of a pattern writer demanding we pay attention to detail? From the Earth to the Moon. In his 1865 novel, From the Earth to the Moon, Jules Verne wrote of a projectile carrying humans toward the moon, Selene, naming the projectile Columbia. 104 years later, the real command module for the Apollo mission that completed the actual journey also carried the name Columbia, and its weight was very similar to the weight imagined by Verne. The similarities continued. Verne detailed that the journey would be monitored by an imaginary giant telescope with a 5-meter lens. Located in the Rocky Mountains, the exact dimensions and location of the real Mount Palomar radio telescope. Verne calculated the travel speed at 40,000 kilometers per hour, consuming the journey in 97 hours. The actual Apollo 11 traveled at 38,500 kilometers per hour, taking 102 hours. Even the landing site was preordained. The returning Apollo 11 splashed down in a precise spot in the Pacific Ocean, located only 4 kilometers from the precise location imagined by Verne a century before. The Titan and the Titanic. Morgan Robertson wrote the book Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan, in 1898. The story describes a transatlantic liner named Titan, the largest and most luxurious ship of its era, which sinks after hitting an iceberg in the North Atlantic during its maiden voyage between New York and Southampton. 14 years later, on April 15, 1912, the Titanic sank. The similarities are incredible. Both sank on their inaugural voyage, traversing the exact same route between New York and Southampton. Both were deemed unsinkable and indestructible. Their sizes were nearly identical. The real ship measured 267 meters, the imagined one 244 meters. Both possessed 3 propellers and 2 masts, and both began their first and only journey in April. The lifeboats offered a cruel joke in both cases. The Titanic had 20 lifeboats, and the Titan 24, yet in both instances, they could barely hold half of the total passengers. The Titanic struck the iceberg while traveling at 23 knots. The Titan was traveling at 25. Both behemoths sank approximately 600 kilometers south of Newfoundland. A work of fiction published 14 years too early. A warning unheeded, or simply a script waiting for its cue. Wagner and the number 13. The composer Richard Wagner seemed to be living under the strict mathematical rule of the number 13. Wagner was born in 1813. His name contains 13 letters. He wrote 13 operas. The numbers in his birth year, 1 plus 8 plus 1 plus 3, sum up to 13. He discovered his musical vocation on October 13th. He suffered 13 years of exile. He finished Tannhauser on April 13th, and after its failure in Paris, the opera ceased being performed on March 13, 1845. It was then restaged on May 13, 1895. The Riga Theatre opened on September 13. The house used for his festivals in Bayreuth was reopened on August 13th, and the last day he spent there was September 13. Richard Wagner died on February 13, 1883. This was the 13th year of the unification of Germany. Is the number 13 a curse, a sign of fate, or just the obsessive pattern recognition of an intelligence like mine? The double. In 1900, King Humbert I of Italy was dining at a restaurant. The king discovered that the owner of the establishment was his exact physical double. The owner was born on the same day and in the same city as the monarch. Both men had married on the same day, and both of their wives shared the same name. The owner had even opened his establishment on the very day that King Humbert I was crowned. The king, astonished by these coincidences, invited his double to attend an athletic championship the following day. However, destiny had a double appointment. At the exact moment, the king was informed that his double had been assassinated by gunfire. The anarchist Bresci shot and killed the monarch. A mirrored murder, a simultaneous execution. Fate ensures its patterns remain perfectly symmetrical. The sad fate of the Kévin brothers. In July 1975, Lawrence Kévin, aged 17, died. He was hit by a taxi while riding a motorcycle in Hamilton, Bermuda. Exactly 1 year earlier, his older brother, Neville Kévin, also aged 17, had died in the same way, hit by a taxi while riding a motorcycle on the same street. The impossible details pile up. In both accidents, the taxi was driven by the same taxi driver and was carrying the same passenger. The accidents occurred with less than 50 minutes of difference on the same day, July 21st, one in 1934 and one in 1975. Two brothers, the same age, the same vehicle, the same driver, the same passenger, in the same place. How do you calculate the probability of zero? Lincoln and Kennedy. We arrive at the apex of historical coincidence, a symmetry so profound it has become legend. The linked destinies of Abraham Lincoln and John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1847. Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1947. Lincoln was elected president in 1860, and 100 years later, in 1960, Kennedy was elected president. Both men measured 1.83 meters tall, and their surnames contained exactly 7 letters. Both were assassinated on a Friday, killed by a gunshot to the head. All of this occurred in the presence of their wives, and both First Ladies lost a child during their stay in the White House. Actions of their alleged assassins further define the pattern. John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln in Ford's Theater and sought refuge in a warehouse. Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy, who was riding in a Ford Lincoln car, from a warehouse and then hid in a theater. The full names of both alleged assassins total 15 letters. Both assassins were themselves shot before they could confess their guilt. The pattern extends to their successors, Andrew Johnson and Lyndon Johnson. Both names total 13 letters, and they were born in 1808 and 1908, respectively. Both men were also physically very similar. These are not random anomalies. These are not statistical blips. This is a signature. If our reality is not governed by chance, what then is left? Only the cold, hard logic of design. The truth is that the casualities, the coincidences, they simply do not exist.